This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions.
Hi, this is Joe Rabil, and what I'm going to talk about today is how to identify potential big win. All right. I want to go through some of the details that I look for when I'm trying to identify something that I think has the potential to go up over the next year or maybe even longer. So this is not necessarily a trading play, although what I'm going to describe could be applied to smaller time frames. Generally speaking, what I'm going to use here is for when I want to put some money away, either in a 401k, and I don't necessarily want to be trading. Now, you might be in and out quickly, but the fact of the matter is, what we're trying to do is identify something that can really move and has the potential to keep moving if it does break out. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. So if you want to learn some more about these techniques, I would suggest starting with the book. It's at rabilstockresearch.com/book. And also, if you enjoy this content, please hit that like button and also subscribe. Okay, so I've got two charts up. On the left, I've got a monthly, and on the right, I've got a weekly of AMG IM Gold. All right, this is the first example, and I want to give different examples. I have let's see, 4 different charts that I want to go through and give an explanation of what I'm looking for. But there are certain things that I'm definitely trying to identify. All right, number one, I'm trying to find either on the monthly chart, I want a big base formed, and I'm going to show you an example of that in a minute, or a big turnaround. All right. And so if a stock has been dropping and now all of a sudden for the first time in a while, we have respect for the 18. Not that we got above the 18, but we respected it. See how the difference between this move getting through the 18 and then coming back down through it, this coming up and then coming back down through it, versus this where we actually respected the line. All right. And we saw this sort of form a little mini base on this time frame above or at the 18. Preferably the majority of the bars are above that 18 MA as it's cupping around. All right. So that's the first time that happened in years. I want to try and identify that. All right. Now, I like the supporting evidence underneath of the MACD holding the signal line. Again, you can see where you came up and dropped back down through and up and dropped back down through. This is the first time you really kind of held it pretty close to the zero line, but this is sort of the key. I'm looking for a low ADX condition. Now, this stayed low for several years. In fact, it dropped down back in 2019, but when it got exceptionally low, single digit level, using a 13.8 ADX, I think this is something that is going to, it's going to identify something where the odds of this staying this low for an extended period are pretty small. All right. Now, on the weekly chart, if you notice when this is pulling back and holding this 18 and forming this little mini base, well, on this time frame, it's forming a pretty nice little base. All right. And we have a massive low ADX condition. So I'm looking for low ADX in back-to-back time frames. All right. And the second thing I'm looking for is either a base formation or a reversal pattern developing, right, on the higher time frame. So if I have those two things, there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to start taking a closer look. All right. And you can see how we have this sort of compression in place. That's where the bars overlap consistently, and there's not a lot of size in the bars. There's not a lot of volatility in the pattern. When that happens, these lines will drop down and be below 25, and this will plummet to the downside. Again, this dropped down to almost 5, while this was down, at a very low level as well in the single digit range. So that's a great combination to be on the lookout for. Now, once that happens, we can look for some type of an entry strategy. In this case, it would have been a breakout play using an ascending triangle sort of pattern as MACD is trying to cross back above the zero line. But once we have this in place, we can go and draw trend lines on price and look for a breakout pattern. All right, look at this CYBR. So this is a little bit different. Instead of it, and yeah, you can look for the ones that are the initial bases when you have that. But what I'm looking for is this low ADX condition, even if we've just been forming a base sideways in an uptrend. Remember, this is still a pretty big long-term uptrend. The 40-month moving average is rising the whole way, just about. But we form this sideways pattern. MACD comes back down closer to the zero line. This happens a lot. I talk about this with my subscribers all the time. And then we have a low ADX condition here. And then again, look at this low ADX condition on the weekly chart. In this case, yeah, there was sort of a breakout play, but I think the higher probability play was after the ADX got going and playing the first pullback. And this was a big green bar I've talked about with my subscribers as what I think is the kickoff bar to the move. ADX kicks in after being low. All right. And so we have low ADX, and then the ADX kicks in on the smaller time frame. This is a great combination to be on the lookout for. One of my favorite patterns, again, is based on the higher time frame. Low ADX, and then ADX starts to kick in on the lower time frame, and you buy your first pullback. There was actually a couple opportunities there before it really kicked into gear. All right. Now, for all I know, this is going to keep going. You see how this is consolidating and forming another basing pattern. Looks like it's forming another move to get going. You can see there's no sellers here, and the ADX is really just getting going on the monthly chart. For all I know, this pattern, which started in the middle of 2023, could continue higher for another year or two, right? So this could be the type of pattern you get in October of 2023, and you're in a long-term capital gain potentially into 2025, for all I know. All right, so we want to be on the lookout for that. Now, look at this. This is a little bit different. Notice how we've got this big turnaround. All right. Now, one of the things I want you to notice is the flagrant size of the moves. You see the size of these swings? These are big swings. You see how we've got a low ADX condition here for the most part back through here. So this whole part, we have low ADX. But notice the movement of the ADX line. You see how that's not low volatility? It's low trend strength. There's not a lot of trend strength here, but there's a lot of volatility. What we want is this part of the move where the ADX drops down and there's not a lot of movement. This is a low trend strength and low volatility where both DI lines are below as well. Once we get that and we start to move sideways, we can take this a lot more seriously. All right. Now, in this case, the way it played out, we never really got respect on the monthly chart. So we would have waited for this low ADX pattern on the weekly to break out and get going. And we'd play the first pullback and looking to play this as a higher pivot low in this area, break out, pull back, and as it turns back up after it breaks out. So by that time, we're back above these two lines. Everything's turning up. MACD's turning back up, and we've got this low ADX pattern that's actually breaking out. All right, so we want to understand that, and you can see the 1, 2, 3. So we got the 1, 2, 3, and then we get the first pullback, and we make a higher low. So once we get that higher low in place, there's a lot of confirmation. Again, this is the low ADX that starts to show strength. We have low ADX on 2 time frames, and then we get strength. All right, let me give you another example. So this is EIX. And again, I want you to get this. So I picked out 2 examples. Look at the volatility. So there's no trend strength here in either direction. All right. And that's why this is plummeting to the downside and it's below 25. But look at the swings that the ADX line is making. You see these movements? That is not ideal. We don't want to be looking for these big. So we want to avoid when there's a lot of volatility in the trend. Right? There's no trend strength, but there's also a lot of volatility with it. Then look at how this works sideways. And during that period, the ADX starts to really drop and we get the DI lines pretty much respecting the 25 line. That is the type of thing we're on the lookout for. Now, during this last part of this move, we had low ADX on this time frame. Yeah, it might have been a little bit more volatile than we want to see, but you've got this big ascending triangle develop. You get the breakout. Now we're actually getting this ADX going, but you could have played the breakout pattern because this crossover and held. If you notice, every move that moved up, green or red, both moved up and just dropped back down every single time. Green. This is the first time that green held above red during a pullback. So I think you could have looked at this as a breakout and hold and then turning back up. All right. Now you could still be looking for the first pullback because it's just getting above 25 for the first time. So this is a huge base. And again, one of the things we're trying to find are stocks that have the potential to go up. Now, this is the key that I want you to understand. Because there's low ADX on 2 consecutive time frames, it does not increase your odds of being right. It doesn't mean that, oh, there's a 90% chance you're going to be right because we have low ADX on both time frames. All right. But if a stock like this gets going, the odds are that it's going to go up for a while because it's going to unwind this low ADX condition, and it's going to take a while. Unwinding that can take a long time. And so if that's the case, I want to get in stocks that have the potential to go up and up and up. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when I look at a CYBR. It's already doing that. It's gone up, but it's not over. I mean, I don't think it's over unless the market really got hit here or something. This looks to me, this is a software company. Software stocks are acting a lot better. I think this is prepping for another leg to the upside after a pause in the trend. That is what we're trying to identify. And again, this is how you're going to get some long-term capital gains by identifying these patterns that have these 2 conditions in place, either a basing pattern on the monthly, long sideways line that has formed, or a turnaround pattern that has formed. All right. Like I talked about with the IAG, where it had been going down and down and down and then reverses. In conjunction with that, we want a low ADX condition with low volatility as much as possible, right? Where it's a lower volatility base forming, and we have low ADX on both time frames. We have that. I think you have the potential to identify stocks that have real potential of going up for an extended period of time. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.